I will focus on two topics. The first is business and supply chain flexibility, and the second is around supply chain integration. So let's start a little bit with the first topic. In the last few years, we have seen huge volatility and risk faced by many companies. This was exemplified by what happened last year in Japan with the tsunami in March of 2011 and the flood in Thailand in August of last year. So the question is, can companies invest in strategies that help them deal with the risk that they face, but also help them deal with huge volatility in the market, both in demand and in supply. And the one concept that a lot of companies think about is flexibility. Flexibility is very intuitive. Everybody understands that more flexibility is better than less. The problem is that flexibility does not come free. So how much flexibility you need, where to invest in flexibility, and what are the potential benefits of flexibility are questions that I'm going to discuss. The second topic will be around supply chain integration. How can companies identify strategies that allow them to reduce costs and be responsive to customer demand? And I will talk about a few strategies that are implemented at different companies, from Dell to other high-tech manufacturing companies, that illustrate that in fact there exist very effective strategies like that, and what are the potential benefits.
Ahora, tanto en América Latina, no solo nacionalidad,
I am originally from Israel, but I came to the US 25 years ago for 1 year only. It has been a very long year.
Yo digo, en América Latina estamos caminando hacia las empresas, ¿no? Estamos caminando hacia esa flexibilidad.
So we see more companies, especially in this region, focusing on flexibility and focusing on efficiencies. One reason for that is because in the 10-15 years ago, there was a lot of focus on reducing costs by moving to China and moving to Asia. But in the last few years, companies recognize the importance of being close to market demand. And one way to do that is to build manufacturing and distribution facilities in Latin America to serve the American market.
Y yo me pregunto si esta flexibilidad está orientada más a lo privado, a la empresa privada, por ejemplo, a las entidades del Estado.
Flexibility cuts across companies, both in the private sector and in the public sector. All of them face a lot of uncertainty and volatility. Everybody understands the importance of flexibility. The question is, how do you achieve it without increasing your costs?
Por ejemplo, en el Estado, ¿qué tan beneficioso es para las entidades? qué gana las
What is
empresas?
the benefit of flexibility in state entities? What do they get with flexibility?
So I'm going to give a couple of examples in my talk, focusing on
Y me voy a centrar
reducing delivery time to the customer, reducing cost, improving service level, improving performance.
mejorar el desempeño.
So these are precisely the type of questions I'm going to focus on.
Los tipos de temas en los que me voy a centrar.
En el caso del privado podríamos hablar de productividad.
In the case of private sector, is there a gain in productivity as well, stemming from flexibility?
Gain in productivity
Una mayor
will be
productividad
one of the
sería
issues that I will focus on.
uno de los temas en los que me voy a centrar.
Un favor, voy a cortar esta y voy a hacer otro pequeño.
In logistic practice.
So I define flexibility as the ability to respond to change. And depending on the company, change may include different things.
El cambio significa cosas diferentes.
And we focus on the ability to respond to change without increasing response time, without increasing cost, while increasing utilization of resources, and while matching supply with demand, increasing service level effectively. So when I focus on flexibility, I focus on many performance measures that logistics companies are interested in.
Están interesadas en todo eso.
La segunda pregunta es, ¿qué factores han convertido a la flexibilidad en un factor
Flexibility into a decisive factor in the
estratégico
strategic
de la gestión empresarial?
of business management?
What makes it a strategic tool is because of the new normal. The new normal.
La nueva normal.
Right. By the new normal, I mean today companies face a market that is highly volatile, that is highly complex, that is highly uncertain. And as a result, it's not clear to them what to do to satisfy customer demand without increasing their cost. 10 years ago, we did not see these types of challenges, so there was not such a huge focus on flexibility. Here is one way to illustrate
Aquí tengo una manera de ilustrar.
this. Just think about oil price.
Simplemente piensa en el precio del petróleo.
If you look at what happened to oil price in the last 10 years, it went up from a price of perhaps $30 per barrel to a price of almost $100 per barrel. And only in the last, just in the last 2 years, the volatility in oil price was so high that it affects manufacturing, logistics, distribution, and service to the customer. And this is not only about oil price. If you look almost at any commodity, you will see enormous volatility. That's why flexibility is so important.
La tercera pregunta es, ¿cuáles son los requisitos indispensables para implementar una cadena
flexible supply chain?
So there is no one size fits all. There is no one
No hay una
strategy.
talla única, no hay una sola estrategia.
In general, there are three ways to implement,
Hay
to
tres
achieve
maneras
flexibility.
de lograr e implementar la flexibilidad
Through process design,
a través del diseño de procesos,
through product design,
diseño de productos
and through system
y
design.
diseño de sistemas.
And depending on the company,
Dependiendo de la compañía,
different strategy may be applied.
las distintas estrategias serán una mejor que otra.
For example, high-tech manufacturing companies a lot of time
compañías de fabricación de alta
will
tecnología
focus
se centran
on
muchas veces
achieving flexibility
en lograr
through product design.
flexibilidad a través del diseño de los productos.
Logistics companies may
Compañías de
focus
logística se
on
centrarán más bien
process design
en diseño de
and the
procesos
system design.
y de
And all the
sistemas.
examples that I will
Y
give
todos los ejemplos que voy a dar
today illustrate the ability to achieve
voy a
flexibility
ilustrar
through
la
each one of these.
capacidad de lograr flexibilidad a través de cada uno de estos temas.
Cuarto, ¿por qué
My fourth question.
tantas empresas no cumplen siempre con atender los cambiantes expectativas de los clientes?
Why do so many companies forget about the changing expectations of clients?
¿Qué obedece esa actitud?
Why is that so?
But it's not that they forget.
No es tanto que se olviden de
It's
atender,
that they prepare the supply chain based on what happened in the last 10 or 12
en base
months.
a lo que ocurrió en
And
los
all of a
últimos
sudden,
10 o 12 meses.
the
Y de
market
pronto,
expectation
las expectativas
has
del mercado
changed,
cambian.
but they have not
Pero
been
ellos
flexible
no
enough
han sido
or
suficientemente
responsive enough
flexibles o
to
no han
adjust their
respondido
strategies
suficientemente
based on
rápido
the changing
como para
market
ajustar
and
sus
customer
estrategias
expectation.
en base al mercado que cambia y a las expectativas del cliente.
And also, at the same time,
Al mismo
changing
tiempo,
your strategy
el cambiar la
is not
estrategia
easy and is costly.
no es
So how do you
fácil, es
design your
costoso.
strategy
Entonces, ¿cómo diseñar la estrategia
so that you can respond to change in the
para
market is
responder a
not
los cambios del
very simple.
mercado? Eso no es muy simple.
5. ¿Cómo se gestiona el riesgo?
How do you manage risk?
So a large part of my talk is going to
Una
be
gran parte
focused
de la charla se va a
risk.
centrar en eso, en el
And
riesgo.
I will start by
Voy a comenzar
focusing on identifying
centrándome
what is the level of exposure to
identificar
risk
el nivel de
that a company
exposición
has.
al riesgo que tiene una compañía.
And once we identify
Una
the
vez
level
que
of exposure
identificamos el
and
nivel de
where
exposición,
the risk is, we will
dónde está el
identify
riesgo,
strategies
identificaremos
to manage risk
estrategias
effectively.
para manejar eficazmente el riesgo.
6. ¿Qué clases de riesgos son los más constantes en la empresa moderna?
What are the most constant risks for modern companies?
There are lots of sources
Muchas
of
fuentes
risk.
de riesgo.
Some of them
Algunas de ellas
we can measure effectively. Think about change in the market, change in supply,
cambio en el mercado, en suministros,
volatility
la
of
volatilidad
currencies,
de
but
las
some of
monedas.
them
Pero hay
are
algunas
very difficult
fuentes de
to
riesgo que son muy
forecast.
difíciles de
Think
predecir.
about
Podemos
natural
pensar
disasters.
en los desastres
Think
naturales,
about geopolitical risks.
los riesgos
Think
geopolíticos,
about epidemic.
las epidemias.
Companies, when they think about risk, need to think about the entire spectrum of sources of
tienen que
risk
pensar en todo este espectro de riesgo.
as they manage their supply chain. And again,
Cuando manejan su
I
cadena de
will
suministro, tienen que
illustrate
hacer.
how
Y
successful
también
companies
voy a ilustrar
have been
cómo es que las
changing
compañías
their strategy
exitosas han
to
estado
deal
cambiando
with
su
the
estrategia
unknown,
para ocuparse de los desconocidos,
those that that are difficult to
que son
predict,
difíciles de
and
predecir,
the unknown,
y
those
los
that we can predict well.
desconocidos conocidos, que son los que podemos predecir.
7. ¿Qué se consigue con la aplicación de la flexibilidad?
What do you get when you apply flexibility?
So again, my objective is to show this through
Mi objetivo es
examples.
mostrarles
So in
esto por ejemplos.
different situations,
distintas
different
situaciones,
benefits. Sometimes
tienen distintas
the ability to
A veces
respond
la capacidad de
to a
responder
disaster. So
a
one
un
of the
desastre, por
examples that
ejemplo.
I will show
Uno de los ejemplos que mostraré
is a disruption in the supply chain
es la
that
perturbación
a company was
en la
able
cadena de
to
suministro,
respond very well,
a la que una
and this is the
compañía
case of
pudo
Nokia,
responder muy bien. Es el
because
caso
they
de
had a
Nokia.
flexible supply chain
Y fue
strategy,
porque tenían una estrategia de cadena de suministro flexible.
whereas its competitor at that time, Ericsson,
Competidor en
did
esa
not
época,
have a
Ericsson,
flexible supply
no
chain
tenía
strategy
una estrategia
and was not
flexible
able
de
to
cadena de
respond to the
suministro
same
y no
disaster
pudo
very effectively.
responder al mismo desastre con tanta eficacia.
¿Cuáles son las nuevas tendencias
What
en
are
la
the new
logística?
trends in logistics?
la globalización de los mercados, las nuevas tecnologías han renovado
market globalizations and new technologies renew logistics methods and techniques.
So it's all about technologies. Everybody's talking about RFID. It's all about global supply chain, but it's also all about risk in the supply chain. It's all about service level. It's all about labor cost. It's a lot about time to market.
Hay mucho que ver con el tiempo de toma de productos de llegar al mercado.
And the fact that you have more and more products competing in the same space. As a result, managing the supply chain and logistics network is very difficult.
La red de cadenas de suministro y logística se hace muy difícil.
When you have just a few products, the logistics system is relatively simple. But today we have thousands of products competing in the same market.
Miles de productos que compiten en el mismo mercado.
La aplicación de métodos logísticos como la flexibilidad y la gestión del riesgo pueden contribuir a arreglar una crisis como la de hoy.
Can flexibility and risk management in logistics have a role in aiding a crisis such as the European crisis, for example?
Well, the European crisis is a little bit different, but it has an impact on logistics, manufacturing, and supply chain. The European crisis means that there is reduction in demand. Reduction in demand affects manufacturing companies, affects logistics companies, and the more flexible you are, the better you are able to respond to these changes. But the European crisis is way beyond just supply chain logistics. We see now American manufacturing companies who are starting to cut activities in Europe, especially in the automotive industry, because of the decline in demand.
Debido a que hay un declive en la demanda.
Recortar. Finalmente, ¿cuál es su apreciación sobre este foro logístico?
What do you think about this logistics forum?
This is the second time that I participate in this event. Looks very impressive, very similar to what you will see in the US, a combination of technology companies and business people focusing on supply chain and logistics.
Actualmente, ¿qué cargo tiene?
What is your current position in the United States?
I'm a professor at MIT.
Profesor del MIT.
Muy amable, yo le agradezco. Voy a estar ahí ya en la exposición.
I'll be listening to you.
Sí, un poquito extensa, pero vamos.